Roll Tide and welcome to this Thursday edition of Crimson Drive, driven by NASCAR. This is Roger Hoover. Great to be with you as we're getting closer to the start of football season. Yes, for the Crimson Tide, but you see the background behind me. Soccer season begins tonight for Alabama, as really the athletics year for the Crimson Tide will begin this evening with Alabama soccer taking on Louisiana Tech in Ruston. And then the Crimson Tide will be at home coming up this Sunday and Thursday with matches in Tuscaloosa. More on that coming up in a moment as we take a look at what's coming up on the show, plus our headlines thanks to our friends RJ Young. RJ Young, the official technology solutions provider of Crimson Drive. Let's see what's coming up on the show this afternoon. Starting with soccer, we'll be joined by the head coach of the Crimson Tide, Wes Hart, to get a full scouting report on Alabama soccer for the 2025 season as he begins his 11th year leading the Crimson Tide here in Tuscaloosa. Then last night, really, our broadcast calendar kicked off with Hey Coach and the Kalen DeBoer Show presented by Alpha Insurance. And we'll bring you comments from Greg Byrne, the director of athletics from the University of Alabama, as he visited with Chris Stewart along with Cory Reamer, who also joined Chris Stewart at Baumhower's in Tuscaloosa. Looking Crimson Tide football, Ty Simpson earlier this week named the starting quarterback for the Alabama Crimson Tide football team after a really solid first 2 weeks of camp and the first scrimmage this past Saturday. Now coming up, it'll be a second scrimmage for the Crimson Tide. Kalen DeBoer really wanted a starter named around that time, but just made sense, according to him and offensive coordinator Ryan Grubb, for this to be the time for Ty Simpson to be announced as the starting quarterback for Alabama. Also, congratulations to LT Overton. He has been named a nominee for the Campbell Trophy. Some more award watch lists have been coming out for Crimson Tide players. Full details on RolledTide.com. I mentioned Cory Reamer is going to join us, or he joined Chris Stewart last night at Baumhower's for Hey Coach, and you'll hear some of his comments coming up. He joined us not just because he's a great national champion for the Crimson Tide back in 2009, but he is going to a new role on our broadcast after he had been my co-host for Crimson Tide Rewind on Mondays in Vestavia Hills at Baumhower's. Now it's Cory Reamer with us each and every Saturday. He'd been on some of our pre and post game coverage, but now you're going to hear him in game as our new sideline analyst, teaming up with Tyler Watts and Chris Stewart, myself, Tom Stipe, Butch Owens, Ethan Carabin, the entire radio crew. We are thrilled to have Cory Reamer now with us as our sideline reporter for each and every game for Alabama football coming up this season. Mentioned the soccer team. Soccer tonight at Louisiana Tech will begin the season. We look forward to keeping up with the results coming up from Ruston. You can watch on ESPN Plus, and then on Sunday, SEC Network Plus, the place to watch as Alabama is home against Chattanooga. 6 p.m. will be the start time on Sunday at the Alabama Soccer Stadium. We now know the home schedule for Crimson Tide Gymnastics. You can catch all the details on RolledTide.com. Once again, a great schedule for Ashley Johnston and the Crimson Tide Gymnastics team. And then baseball, a couple of staff additions. Garrett Wood, a new role for him as he has been elevated to the director of player development for Alabama, plus Carson Rainey now back on staff for Rob Vaughn. More details available at RolledTide.com. More details from Wes Hart now on Alabama soccer as the Crimson Tide will begin the season tonight against Louisiana Tech, and then some great home matchups coming up here in Tuscaloosa. First of all, Sunday against Chattanooga, but then a huge high-profile matchup next Thursday with the Crimson Tide hosting the Michigan Wolverines at the Alabama Soccer Stadium. Details on that, plus a full breakdown of the roster from Wes Hart as we get ready for Alabama Soccer 2025. Coach Roll Tide, it's great to have you with us. And also, can you believe this is now year 11 for you in Tuscaloosa? Roll Tide.
And it's crazy. Roll Tide there, Roger. But yeah, crazy, man. Time flies. So feels like just yesterday that we got here. But now I'm certainly blessed and excited about the 11th season here at Alabama.
Well, it's about to begin coming up Thursday night in Ruston against Louisiana Tech. And of course, there's a very short training window for you and the coaching staff to get to work with your players. But what have the last few weeks been like here on campus getting your team ready for the start of the season?
Yeah, it's been an awesome preseason. And, it's so important that players come in fit and sharp, because there's not a lot of turnaround time. I think we reported on the 29th of July, had our first game against Clemson like 5 days later. And so not a lot of time to prepare. And, but for us, thankfully, the team came in fit. They, from day one, they looked ready to go. So we had a couple of exhibition games, and I think we're in a good spot heading into the first game against Louisiana Tech.
Yeah, what'd you like most from what you saw against Clemson, also against Florida State?
Yeah, I think the thing I'm most excited about is just our mentality, our willingness to battle, compete, and fight. We purposely set up a couple really tough preseason games, to challenge us and stretch us. For us, that was more valuable than playing games that we're going to win by 5 goals. It's like, no, we got to find out who we are right out of the gate. And so, for us, we proved that we're willing to fight and compete and battle and do all the little things that go a long ways. I think we're more athletic than we've been in the past. Added a couple players to the group that add some athleticism, especially into the back line. We're really excited about what we've seen so far, but also know that we still got a long way to go.
Mentioned it's your 11th year here at Alabama. Time flies. It also kind of blows my mind that this is now year 4 for Gianna Paul wearing the crimson and white. Can this really be her senior season?
Crazy, crazy. So yeah, hoping maybe the NCAA lets her stay here a couple more years, but no, Gianna's been fantastic. I think she's um, I'm excited to see what she can do this year. I mean, she's really developed into a heck of a soccer player, and we're going to certainly be leaning on her quite a bit. But I think she's ready to carry the load, and I'm excited to see what she can do.
We'll start with her in the forward position as we kind of go through every position on this team. What do you like up top about the Crimson Tide and the attack?
Yeah, I think we've got some serious kind of athleticism, and we're quite dynamic. Between Gianna Paul, Maddie Podolsky if she's playing up top or on the wing, Leah Cundy, Ashley Roney, Cami Silva. Some good athletes, some fast players, good 1v1. Players that can get behind and stretch an opposing back line. So I think our front three are as scary as any front three in the country. I mean, it's a pretty dynamic front line, that's for sure.
How important was the World Cup experience that Maddie Podolsky got to have last fall?
Yeah, I think it was good. Without question. I mean, I think it hurt us a little bit in a sense that, and probably hurt her freshman year here in terms of, not a lot of consistency. She was kind of in and out. I think she went to a camp in, kind of, midway through the preseason last year, and probably kind of threw her off a little bit, and then for her to leave kind of beginning of the SEC part of the schedule. So it wasn't great for us last year, but I think at the end it's going to pay off down the road. I mean, just that kind of experience, what she gained from that, certainly makes her a better player, which in turn makes our team a better team. But it'd be nice to have Maddie, for the entire year this year, and I think she's ready to have an excellent year as well.
And another name you mentioned there, Ashley Roney. I know fans didn't get to see her on the pitch last season dealing with that injury, but what have you seen from the work she's done to get ready for this season, her
Yeah,
first year getting to play?
similar to some of those other players I mentioned, very good athlete. She's got pace, so she's able to stretch back lines. We can put balls in behind, and then very good in the air. So I think she'll be able to get on the end of service, on the back post, and she'll be able to get her head on some, whether it's set pieces or in the run of play. I think she's going to score some goals with her head. But just gives us another weapon out there. I think we've got some depth, in that front line as well. So I'm excited for Ash. She's battled some injuries early on, but in the spring she was, you're slowly kind of starting to see her come into form, and then she came in this fall and she's been flying. She was quite good against Clemson.
And then some familiar names in the midfield. Who's really making things happen there?
Yeah, got almost too many options, if that's such a thing, But Nadia Ramadan, of course, so creative and clever and good on the ball, and strong and powerful. So many good qualities about Nadia, and we've experimented a little bit with Maddie Podolsky as an attacking midfielder, and she causes a lot of problems, just her athleticism and her kind of scrappiness and feistiness. She's a handful in there. Kylie Kukan, she'll be entering her sophomore year. Had a very solid freshman year, and I think she's going to continue to keep getting better and better. So, I think the three of them. Izzy Smith is another one who sometimes is playing in the attacking role, sometimes as a defensive midfielder. Melina Rabimbis, who's finally healthy. You saw glimpses of her in the last fall, but she was really, just kind of a shell of herself last fall, coming back from injury, and not fit, not sharp. But she had the entire spring to get there, and then over the summer, she put a tremendous amount of work in the summer. So I think she's at 100% now, and I think she's going to be quite quite good for us as well. So a lot of good options, and that's not even counting the two freshmen we have in Paige Thompson and Olivia Belcher. They're both mid-year enrollees, so we had them in the spring. But they're going to be quite good too. So I think we've got kind of a crowded midfield, which is a good problem.
Then how about on the back line with the defenders who's still hunting the ball, really that style of Alabama soccer
Yeah,
we've grown used
yeah.
to the last
So
few years?
back line, I think we're healthier and more athletic than we were a year ago. So um, I guess maybe starting with Mason Smith, who saw a lot of time last year as a freshman, and then she tore her ACL kind of midway through the year against, or kind of maybe towards the end of the year against Texas A&M. But she's had an incredible comeback. She looks quite good. So she'll be back in the back line. We added a transfer, Avery Brown from Ole Miss, who was a former SEC freshman, all freshman team. Very good player, but she's got size and speed and strength, athleticism. I mean, she's the real deal. So I'm super excited about her. Callie Brewer is coming into her own. I mean, you saw glimpses of her last year coming off the bench, and she's looked quite good. She had a good spring and has looked good so far. Kennedy Garcia is another one. A converted forward that we've moved to the back. That she's athletic and scrappy and feisty and tough and physical. Kirsten McDonald, is another one that has size and strength and athleticism. So we've got a lot of options. There's a couple too that I'm probably missing here, but I think a lot of good options in the back, similar to what I said in the midfield and up top. I mean, we've got probably more depth than I've ever seen from an Alabama team.
And does that extend to the goalkeeper position as well?
Yeah, yep. I mean, Cory, who's a 2-year starter for us. You had Ellie, who started some games last year, and then Maddie Mungia, who was a freshman last year that we had high hopes for, but she had a torn hip labrum, and so she did not get to play. But she's back and healthy. So I think there's certainly competition in that spot, and I don't know, just comfort in knowing that whoever we go with there, I think is a good option. So I'm excited about this group. I think a lot of talent and a lot of depth for sure.
And then what do you like about the schedule and how it opens up? Obviously, Thursday night against Louisiana Tech on the road, but then two really good matches coming up in Tuscaloosa, Chattanooga on Sunday, and then the University of Michigan coming to town next Thursday.
Yeah, I guess maybe starting with preseason. We scheduled two very difficult games so that we could kind of learn about ourselves and stretch ourselves and push ourselves. Clemson, right out of the gate, they're 2 years removed from being in a Final Four. Very, very good side. Went down to Clemson and tied 2-2. Pretty even game. They had moments in the game where they were better, and we had some stretches when we were better. But overall, I thought it was a fair result. Florida State, I thought we played quite well for about 25, 30 minutes. They are probably the most athletic team I've ever played against. They are so darn athletic and quite good. I mean, each player on their team is not just athletic, but they're good soccer players. So that really pushed us. We conceded about 25 or 30 minutes into that game and gave away a few more, but ended up losing the game 4-1. But I walked away not content by any means, but certainly felt good about knowing that, gosh, you know what, we competed and fought for 90 minutes, and I think if we can do that against most teams, I think we're going to be successful. Florida State was just kind of a different animal, but I don't think there's too many teams like that out there. But we'll open up at Louisiana Tech, and by no means is it going to be an easy game, but obviously they're not Florida State. But we saw them last year. As did we see Tennessee Chattanooga as well, and so we're familiar with both those groups. I know they're both going to be difficult games, but they're games I believe that we're going into those expecting to have good results in those games.
Well, we look forward to it. The start of the season is here for Alabama athletics, beginning with the Crimson Tide soccer team coming up on Thursday night. Coach, just safe travels coming up to Ruston, and we can't wait to have you back in Tuscaloosa for those early season matches. And then SEC play, everything's coming up this fall for the Crimson Tide. Just thank you for the time. We look forward to catching up with you again. Roll Tide.
Awesome, Roger. Appreciate you. Roll Tide.
Best Best of luck to Coach Hart and the Crimson Tide tonight against Louisiana Tech. Greg Byrne, the director of athletics for Alabama, he was thinking about soccer when he sat down last night with Chris Stewart for head coach and the Kalen DeBoer show at Baumhauer's in Tuscaloosa. Here's part of the conversation that Chris had along with Greg Byrne about everything that's kind of new around Alabama athletics as we start this season, plus some other thoughts on what's going on in the changing landscape of college sports. Here's our Hey Coach replay, looking back at last night's comments from Greg Byrne talking with Chris Stewart on Hey Coach.
Hey, we're starting up the athletic season, and it's natural. People would think, yeah, Chris, we're 2.5 weeks away from the start of the football season. We got soccer starting up this weekend. You're at Louisiana, or the Tide's at Louisiana Tech. The home opener Sunday against Chattanooga, but there's a lot happening on campus with student athletes in addition to football, which obviously garners the amount of attention that it does.
Yeah, it's we're back. I saw Rashenda out there and went over and talked to the volleyball team this week. The soccer team's up and going. We'll have our first home soccer match on Sunday at 6 o'clock. Hope people will come out and watch. I always remember I tell the story about West Hart 9 years or so ago when first soccer season. I think there may have been 50 people at the first soccer game I went to, and then a couple years ago, we were playing Duke to go to the Final Four in soccer, which is the Soccer Cup, and we had to shut the gates and turn people away. So that was really cool, and we had so many of our kids and teams and coaches perform at such a high level across the board for so many of our sports, and that's something that we're proud of, and we want that to continue. Now we're evolving into a new era now with the House settlement and everything that we're dealing with that, and that's at times you're having to make some choices from here or there, how you do rev share and how what legitimate NIL opportunities are out there. But one of the things for sure for us is the passion of the Alabama fan base separates us and gives us a chance for hopefully our coaches to be able to recruit and show that when you come to Alabama, you're going to not only have a great academic experience, great athletic experience, but you're going to be able to grow yourself socially, and socially's changed a lot in what that looks like in today's new world.
Been around you enough, and of course our coaches and student athletes enough to feel really comfortable and confident saying this. It's your job to go and advocate for the sports, for the school, for the student athletes, and for the coaches. But when it's the type people that we have at the University of Alabama, that makes it easier in one sense, but makes you even more passionate to be successful, doesn't it?
Yeah, I mean, I'll tell our fans, the folks who are here tonight and everything, when you get to be around the young people in our programs, when you get to be around our coaches and who we have coaching the young men and the young women in our programs, we got a bunch of good people. You got a bunch of good people who you'd want your son or daughter to be associated with. Now, they're still 18 to 22 years old, and there's times they're going to be knuckleheads,
sure.
Right? But they are, I just really, it's really been invigorating because over the last few years, I've spent nothing wrong with attorneys, not offending hopefully any of them, but I spend more time with attorneys than I have with our kids.
Yeah.
And I told Regina and I told our new president, President Mueller, I got to make sure that we don't lose sight of being around those kids and having influence on them and helping them develop to be the maximum best God-given abilities that they have in every aspect of their life. And that's, you get to do that on a daily basis. That's fun to be around. That fills your bucket. And obviously just being able to do that here at Alabama is very special.
Speaking of Dr. Mueller, had the privilege of meeting him the other day at the scrimmage at the stadium. I know that Shane Lyons was on the search committee. For those that don't know, Deputy Director of Athletics,
right.
I believe is the title. But
second tour of duty to Alabama.
It is indeed.
Yep.
Great guy. One of my favorite people we've ever had on staff from the state of West Virginia.
That's right.
Okay. But it is.
Who's second?
Shane may be one. Now
Okay,
that the other guy's retired.
That's right.
The other guy's retired. But it is indeed a hire that obviously is very important because it was so valuable to have the relationship that athletics did with Dr. Bell during his tenure.
Yeah, we had great support from Dr. Bell. He did a wonderful job as president, supportive of athletics, and did a great job with the entire university. And you have to have support from the president if you're going to have success. And I've seen plenty of institutions have really good presidential leadership that's had a positive impact on athletics. I've seen some presidents that sometimes didn't know if the ball was pumped or stuffed, and that was
care.
Yeah, or care, and that's a challenge. And so I can already tell with President Mueller going to be very engaged with athletics in a very positive way, and that's exciting for our department and everybody associated with it.
Greg, let's talk about the start of the football season coming up in a couple of weeks. We'll be in Tallahassee. A lot of things going on from an administrative standpoint and from a conference standpoint as it relates to the future of SEC football.
Yeah, we still have to kind of get it on a landing spot on 8 versus 9 games. We're obviously all paying attention to the new world of the House settlement. I mean, I'm getting in the weeds here, but scholarship limits no longer are allowed. They're deemed illegal by the court system. So, but roster limits are okay, and so the roster limit eventually, once some of the grandfathering of the walk-ons, will be at 105. You know, we've often carried over 130 kids on the football team, so there'll be a reduction. But then at the same time, too, you know, other leagues have decided not to have limits on how many scholarships you have on the 105. The SEC currently has 85, so we've got to figure that part out, too, is that we've got to make sure that doesn't put us at a competitive disadvantage. But something, obviously, that the fan base pays a lot of attention to is who you play, and we've really been thoughtful, and it goes back to Coach Saban and I talking a lot about you know, I think our fan base, who is so supportive, when you would play a neutral game, when you would have your season tickets, if we were fortunate to play enough to play in the SEC championship game, if we were fortunate enough to make it the CFP or whatever postseason opportunity was there, that's a lot of games. It's very expensive. It's a lot to ask for your fan base. And so we started scheduling a lot of the home games, thinking that it'd be good for our fans. The team likes playing those games. It's good for college football. People pay attention to our university when you have a big matchup, whoever it is from a non-conference standpoint. And so, you know, I do think it's going to be interesting to see what happens from a strength of schedule standpoint for the college football playoff, because we've seen teams cancel home and homes, and who only have one Power 4 non-conference home and home. We've got 2 every year for the next 10 years, basically. And this year, obviously, we have Florida State down there in Tallahassee, and that'll be a really tough road non-conference game. And then we've got Wisconsin coming here, not to mention our other games, too, in non-conference. But I think those are going to be games our fans are excited about and want to see. But we got to make sure that it's recognized when it comes to the college football playoff, and that's, you know, it's not just 2 versus 3 losses or 1 versus 2 losses. When you play a schedule, and ESPN just had the strength of schedule come out for the preseason. Now, it's going to change during the year, but I think out of the top 16 strength of schedules, 15 of them were SEC teams, if I'm not mistaken.
Right.
So, you know, that needs to be recognized.
Absolutely. The in-stadium enhancements are going to be announced fully within the next week. But one thing, as you're going to your phone, we're excited about, and just as you can go to it quickly on your phone because of the great Wi-Fi here at Baumhower's Victory Grill, you continue to take on the task of trying to make that technology available as best you can when you're talking about 100,000 people in one spot at one time.
Yeah.
The addition of Wi-Fi within the stadium is now taking place.
Yeah, we got Wi-Fi. That's a good thing.
That's a good thing.
And there's a number of things that we're going to do a soft launch in the first week or two that hopefully we'll do more of a public launch as the season goes on, that I think will be very fan-friendly from an efficiency standpoint, to allow fans to understand where the shortest lines are and things like that, to make sure they are back in their seats and enjoying the game as much as possible. And that's and we waited a while on Wi-Fi. You know, we could have done it maybe a few years ago. Quite honestly, the technology, we weren't very comfortable that it would really serve our fans at the level we wanted it to, so we continued to wait and be patient with it. Not saying that it'll be perfect, but I like the technology that we have. It's the top of the line. It's something that only a few people have even used at this point. And as you walk into Saban Field at Bryant-Denny Stadium, you're going to see the different technology that's there, that's visible, starting as soon as you walk up to the gates, and we think that'll be a very nice enhancement for our fans.
When you go all digital with your tickets and everything, it can streamline. It can also open up, just like anything on the web does, to issues from a cyber theft standpoint. But for you Apple users, you've got heightened ticket security now, right?
We do, and I can explain it about as well as you just did.
That's all you got, too, right?
That's all I got, but there's an email that supposedly has already gone out, and the folks who do use Apple, there is another level of security to help with that, to protect the tickets. And one of the reasons why we went to electronic tickets was because it really helped limit the ability to duplicate tickets.
Right.
So we used to deal with that all the time.
Sure.
And you feel terrible for people because they get scammed.
Right.
And at the same time, too, if somebody buys a block of 6 seats and those 6 seats has somebody sitting in there that are the right tickets, not a whole lot you can do at that point, especially on a big game that's sold out, right?
Right.
So this will just be another additional benefit for our fans. I don't know when it will come to the Android Google world. I can't tell you. But when there are opportunities to improve the experience of our fans, we're always trying to focus on that.
Seems like every week during the season, we're recognizing it's a great problem. We're recognizing the anniversary of a championship team. Whether it's, and I'm very hesitant to say it this way, but I don't know how to say it otherwise, just an SEC title.
Right.
Or if we're talking about a national championship.
You could just say an SEC title. You don't need to throw the just in there.
You're exactly right, because I shouldn't. It's vitally important. Bob's going to remind me of that here in a minute. But it's amazing we are now hitting the 100-year anniversary of Alabama's first football national championship. So that cycle is going to start up here.
How old were you in our first one?
I was about a year and a half older than you, Smarty. You were still 2 feet taller than me. But only a year and a half older, but it's amazing that we're getting into this opportunity to start recognize a century of national champions as well.
Yeah, it absolutely is, and we're going to do some things throughout the year. Obviously, there's nobody left from those teams,
right?
Or that team, but at the same time, too, we could recognize our history. And and being here at Baumhauer's and what Bob and his teammates meant for our athletic department, our football program, our university. One of the things you got to do is you got to honor the past. You got to be very focused on today, and you got to create vision for the future. You got to try to balance all three of those things, and nobody's perfect at it. But think about the history we have here, and even just looking here, in Baumhauer's, and all the pictures up on the wall of all the past teams, and the incredible history that, as a person that didn't grow up in Alabama, but paid attention to Alabama as long as I can remember, and I think I know a lot of the history pretty well. But all you got to do is there'll be something up there that'll stump you pretty quick. That's still an important part of what this place represents. And so, that is something we will continue to focus on. Is celebrating our history. Coach Saban's going to be able to be part of a celebration this year, too, for one of his teams now that, hopefully it's not an early game when that comes along, but there'll be some recognition to one of his teams, too.
Special. And, man, you got all sorts of stuff going on. Even, people have driven past Coleman Coliseum going, what's going on? Well, you're building a new basketball practice facility and a training center as well. Give a little detail and update on how that's progressing.
Yeah, so obviously we unveiled the idea of a new arena. We ran into some complications with that. It's still something we got to address. And Coleman opened up in '68. It's showing its age. At the same time, too, and that's something as much as anything is for the fans, right? Where the coaches are, whether it's Nate or whether it's Christy Curry, their gym is their lab, right? That's their classroom with the team. So that's where they spend 90-some% of the time. So what we have told Nate, we told Christy too, we were going to get them dedicated space that's theirs 365 days a year, and it is going to be top of the line. Nate wanted, for instance, he wanted the offices on the same level as the court. Oftentimes in basketball practice facilities, the offices are above the court and you're looking down on it. He wants to force the kids to come into their offices, coming in and out of the court. He actually saw it with one NBA team that he went and visited, and he was so impressed, and they've got a great culture within their program. He said, I want that. We adjusted what we were doing and did that. But Nate, I just talked to him yesterday, and we were talking about the basketball facility, and the steel's coming out of the ground. It's going to be a great addition for our basketball programs, and a great recruiting tool. But just as important is one of the things you have to have, you always have had to have, but even in today's world with the transfer portal, with the rev share, NIL, whatever you want to call it, you got to develop kids, and you got to get into whatever sport it is. In basketball, you got to get in the gym with your kids, and this will allow us to have as good a setup as anybody has in the country for our basketball programs year in and year out.
You're generous with your time. Appreciate your leadership. More importantly, thanks for your friendship.
Same
we
here.
Appreciate you being on.
Appreciate you, buddy.
Greg Byrne.
Roll Tide.
Roll Tide. Director of Athletics at the University of Alabama, Greg Byrne, kind enough to join us here at Baumhauer's Victory Grill.
Hi, my name is Jumpy Bernard here on Crimson Drive, driven by NASCAR.
Final guest of the night last night for Hey Coach and the Kalen DeBoer Show was Cory Reamer as he joined Chris Stewart on stage at Baumhauer's Victory Grill in Tuscaloosa to talk about his new role getting elevated to being our sideline analyst for Crimson Tide football on the Crimson Tide Sports Network. Cory joins Chris to talk about that, plus some thoughts on Alabama football 2025. We're thrilled to have Cory Reamer now a permanent part of our game day coverage coming up this season on the radio with the Crimson Tide Sports Network. Here's a look back at his visit last night with Chris Stewart on Hey Coach.
I'm friend and member of the Crimson Tide Sports Network crew, but we got him now on the sidelines with us in game. Cory Reamer, joining us on the show.
Man, good to be here. Yeah,
great to see you.
I'm excited about it. It's been a work in progress. Got to dabble in it a couple years ago with the Texas game, filling in.
Yeah.
Enjoyed it so much. I guess I'm going to do it for an entire season now.
Not every game will be 1,000 degrees.
We were just talking about, we opened up with Tallahassee, and my wife's here, and she said, "Do you think it's going to be as hot as that Texas game was?" And I'm really hopeful. 2:30 kick down there. It's going to be a little warm, but I'm hoping I hope it's not near what it was in that Texas game.
The misting machines.
Yeah.
I learned during my time as the sideline guy, the misting machines in August, September, and boy, those heaters in November and December. Big fan.
I need all the tricks. You've got all the experience. You know all the little inside details. Because I didn't know it. I mean, at the Texas game, I was just trying to figure out where I could go at halftime. I was like, can I get out of the sun somewhere, please? Take me out of here.
Yes, I highly recommend the PB&Js at halftime in the locker room. We'll work on the other tricks later on. I know that something you're excited about. We're excited to have you there. Damian, a great job last year, but he's got an opportunity to go work with Coach Cochran and be a part of his coaching staff down at Livingston at West Alabama. There's something about former players and former coaches and the lifelong bond, and you were a part of two different coaching staffs. You played for Coach Shula, and then you got the honor of playing for Coach Saban.
That's right.
As well. Tell me, from your perspective, what's most important in trying to turn it. And I know it's different because we were going from a difficult time at the end of Coach Shula's run to Coach Saban, obviously. Coach DeBoer's trying to keep it at the level we were accustomed to and also put it back to the top once again. What's most important, though, that you knew from your time in going through it?
Well, I think get this question a decent amount, and I think that there's a lot of similarities between although the roster might look different from when Coach Saban took over in 2007 to what Coach DeBoer took over. In terms of, I was not a five-star recruit. There's a lot more of those that were on this roster as Coach DeBoer steps in. But from a timing standpoint, Coach Saban shows up, and right before springtime, he walks into it. He's trying to implement his system. He's trying to finish up, grab the last few minute recruits that he could possibly grab. And it was kind of the same thing with Coach DeBoer. When he was hired, it wasn't a full recruiting season. You know, you're inheriting a roster, and even though there's a lot of guys that were really good football players, they all signed on to play at Alabama under Coach Saban. So right. I think that there's a lot of similarities in this is not who I committed to. And you, as a coach, come in, you're trying to figure out how to connect with a team very quickly. You've changed absolutely everything. I remember Coach Saban, pretty much everybody was removed that we knew in the building. And there was a few guys that are still left around. You know, Josh Chapman's still there. Freddie Roach is still there. A lot of familiar faces that I love that are still there now. But, he's in there trying to just make sure he doesn't disrupt the locker room too much, try to get them to play for him. It's a new face. And I think that, last year was an example of that. It's like he has so much ability. His record speaks for himself of his capability to go out there and win football games. There's a lot of massaging that has to go on from a coach's standpoint, especially amongst the players. And you've heard a couple comments from some players this offseason, what the locker room it was like last year and now what it looks like for this season. Who's there, who's bought in, speaks volumes that he didn't have any guys leave in that last portal window. I think that the same thing happened with, Coach Saban's second year. We go undefeated in the regular season and lose in the SEC championship game. I feel like the momentum for what he's built, Coach DeBoer has built for this year, is going to be following similar tracks because the guy's got a track record. I mean, knows how to win ball games. And it's very different from what we've been used to for the last, however many years it was. But I believe that this is going to be an exciting year. Kane Womack's, his deal is let's try to simplify this defense and let these guys go out there. But, he wants to confuse offenses, but to make the defense be able to give a lot of different looks, but keep it simple where they can go out there and play fast. I had a special teams coordinator in New York that always said, if you want to figure out who the athletes are, just make them where they don't have to go think. And because as soon as a player's out there thinking, they're just hesitating one step. Right. They're going to be a step behind. And I think Kane Womack's goal is he wants to cause confusion, but he wants his players to know exactly what they're doing, go out there and wreak havoc and create a lot of turnovers, which we saw last year. But now you got a ton of guys that are coming back that I'm excited about. Bray Hubbard is a guy at safety that I'm excited to watch, continue to develop. He's a great player. But, Tim Keenan, LT Overton, a guy that's going to be a massive, disruptor up front. A couple different positions, a little bit different scheme than what Coach Saban ran. His base defense is more of like a 4-2-5, but he can flex his looks in a lot of different ways. You've got, I think, 7 or 8 returning starters on defense. That's massive for any team that's trying to go out there and compete against a tough league. You got these offenses that move so fast, and you got to know exactly what it is that you're out there making calls, making shifts as quickly as possible. The more senior leadership or guys that have been around the program now, you get your second year underneath you. You don't have to go out. You don't have to think about it near as much this year. You can just go out there and play football. So, the linebackers that we've got coming back this year are going to be some studs. Yeah. I'm looking forward to seeing what Deontay Lawson is going to be able to do this season. But there's a bunch of other ones too. You got Justin Jefferson. Middle linebacker is a huge position for this defense in the way that he likes to run things, and I think we're going to have some stout guys that are going to be in that middle.
You've got an interesting perspective because you played both secondary and linebacker during your tenure in Tuscaloosa.
Secondary was, Coach Saban quickly realized and told me, you're too slow to play in the secondary in this league. If you want to play here, let's move in the box pretty quickly.
As lovingly as only he can. You ain't fast enough. Let's get up there.
Yeah.
But I know that there's a ton of excitement for the secondary and what it can look like.
Yeah, absolutely. You got a guy like Damani Jackson coming back. You lose some good players to the NFL, and you bring back Damani Jackson, Keon Sabb, Xavier Brown, guys that can go out there. Coach Saban's philosophy was always, let's put our guys on the edges. Let's put them on islands. Let's go out there and we just lock those guys up. And while we might, this new scheme might be a little bit different, where you got some more zone looks or not as much man-to-man on the outside as what we're used to seeing from Coach Saban. I think that this crew has the ability to lock a lot of guys up, and we're going to have to, because you look across this league and you look at our schedule, some of these teams that we're going to be facing. I think Georgia's got, their best wide receiver core they've probably had since A.J. Green was there. I mean, there are weapons in every team across this league. You're going to have some corners that can go out there and play man-to-man and lock some of these best. You don't have – the good news is you don't have one guy that's got to follow that best receiver. You've got two guys on the edges that can go out there and play against anybody. And that is, as a defensive coordinator – that's that's what you dream about. Sure. Is having two guys on the edge that you feel comfortable that can go out there. You don't care who's in front of them. They're going to be out there to cover.
Yeah, let's talk quarterback position. Announced this week that no surprise that Ty Simpson's the guy going to get the first nod as the starting quarterback. And I think, to me, Cory, that's a deal that makes me take a deep breath. Not that you don't trust the guys that are behind him, but that's a guy you feel like you needed to step up and win the job, and he's done that.
Yeah, I think that's every coach's fear of going into a season without, having a returning starter. You got three guys that are in there, obviously the big five-star freshman, and then you've got Austin Mack, who came in, transferred in from Washington as well, and then you got Ty Simpson, and I'm pumped for this guy. He's a very rare breed these days in college football. The fact that he's been here for, I think this is his fourth year to be in Tuscaloosa. You just don't see it, especially with a guy like him that's got the caliber skill set. We got to see it some last season, and that the fact that he's earned this job. And I know Coach DeBoer was talking about trying to name the starter before this coming Saturday, the second scrimmage. And I think he said it on a radio show, local radio show somewhere, and then he comes out the next day and goes ahead and names him as the starter. It's massive for his confidence level. You don't have to wait. The further and further you get into camp and you still haven't named a starter, the team's questioning it. Your quarterback kind of starts losing confidence, and the fact that he knows who his guy is, he can go ahead and name it. I'm pumped. I think he's going to run this offense how this staff wants to run it, and I think the wide receivers are excited. But good news is you've got two really good quarterbacks that are behind him. I think it's probably was not an easy decision to go ahead and call him the starter, because you've heard a lot out of the few practices and scrimmages that we've had. Keelan Russell's got a pretty big arm. Austin Mack, you saw what he was able to do. He's a towering individual. He's got a massive arm too. But Ty Simpson, couldn't be prouder of him that he's continued to stay in Tuscaloosa. It seems like the team loves him, and they're all behind him, which is what you want as a coach too. Somebody that has the locker room, and looking forward to seeing what he's going to be able to do this year. Yeah.
No turnovers in the scrimmage the other day. And I know, look, it's always a thing when you're going your team against your team. Yeah. If one thing's good on one side of the ball, it maybe makes you concerned on the other. But the reality is you want to see that offense protect the football. That's right. The bigger issue right now, or bigger question mark, I should say.
Yeah, and I think that's a huge emphasis for anybody. It's always like, hey, we've got to create more turnovers than we give away. And if you've got quarterbacks that understand, you got weapons all over the place, and you've got a stout defense. Sometimes you got to have a guy that knows when he needs to take those chances sometimes in the games, and then also one that knows, hey, I don't have to start threading this needle too much. I've got a good defense. I've got weapons around, good running game, good offensive line. Somebody's going to protect me, keep me pretty clean in the pocket. And the fact that he's able to protect the football against a defense that we talked about that's returning so many guys, they're doing ones-on-ones out there in practice too. And I guarantee you that defense, it's their goal to go out there and try to rattle him and create turnovers. And the fact that he's been able to do it against a top 10 defense from last year, returning a lot of guys, I think it's not just, headline news, or they're just creating confidence, trying to create confidence in this guy. I think he's doing a really good job.
Cory Reamer, excited about the season upcoming, excited to have you with us as our sideline reporter of the Crimson Tide Sports Network. Thanks for coming up today. Appreciate
excited to be a part of the team. Looking forward to it. It's going to be a fun year.
Cory Reamer, former linebacker for the Crimson Tide, and now again on the sidelines for us, covering things on the Crimson Tide Sports Network.
Can't wait to have Cory with us each and every football game coming up this season as part of our radio crew, and he'll be roaming the sidelines. He'll be asking Kalen DeBoer the tough question coming up at halftime as we look forward to this 2025 Alabama football season. It's time now to take a look at our upcoming schedule. Our upcoming schedule, once again, will feature one show, and that's coming up next week. It is Hey Coach, coming up at 6 p.m. Don't forget, we'll have another edition of Crimson Drive, driven by NASCAR as well, coming up at 2 o'clock on Thursday. But then after that, we'll start to pivot to our game week preparations for Alabama against Florida State. Crimson Drive, driven by NASCAR, will go to twice a week, Tuesdays and Thursdays, starting with the build-up to the Florida State game, conversations with Alabama football players, media members, the opposing broadcaster. Will get you really prepared for the Crimson Tide and the Seminoles, like we do for each and every football game here on the Crimson Tide Sports Network. Make sure you follow us on all of our social media platforms, especially now on YouTube. This is the time to subscribe to our channel, turn on the notifications so you won't miss anything, like last night's edition of Hey Coach and the Kalen DeBoer Show. I know many of you watched that live stream. Make sure you have notifications on so you don't miss any of our live content. The booth cam's coming up as well on August 30th against FSU, in addition to our 2 editions of Crimson Drive, driven by NASCAR. So really, this is the time to get prepared for the season. Make sure you follow us at UA_CTSN. It's going to do it for this busy Thursday edition of Crimson Drive, driven by NASCAR. Huge thank you to our guests, Greg Byrne and Cory Reamer, who were at Hey Coach last night. And also, if you missed the replay of that show, Rashinda Reed, the volleyball coach for Alabama, and Bob Baumhauer, the legend himself, the head fry cook, and of course, our great host at Baumhauer's for all of our programming. He joined Chris Stewart as well. Catch those conversations on demand with the video replay on the Crimson Tide Sports Network or the Alabama Insider Podcast. Thank you as well to Wes Hart. Best of luck to he and the ladies tonight, coming up against Louisiana Tech to begin the soccer season. Can't wait to see them in person coming up on Sunday in Tuscaloosa. And thanks to our video producer, Ethan Caravan. He put all this show together. He ran the Hey Coach video stream last night as well. We appreciate Ethan and all of his hard work making this show a success. For everybody with the Crimson Tide Sports Network, this is Roger Hoover saying thanks for watching. Enjoy some soccer coming up this weekend. Again, it's just great to have Alabama athletics starts. We have volleyball coming up soon, and in a couple weeks, football as well will certainly be the focus when Alabama takes on Florida State. But enjoy the weekend. We'll have game results to talk about the next time we visit with you next Thursday at 2 p.m. for Crimson Drive, driven by NASCAR. Till then, so long, everyone.